Hey, it's Frank here with 4D Honeybee, and we are going to talk about mite treatments now. And it's mid to late August, and by mid to late August, you really got to have a solid plan for treating mites. I cannot stress enough how important it is to treat for mites. I'm in southern Ontario, Canada, and mites are a big problem here. And the reason why I'm saying you have to have a plan for it is that there are a lot of factors that go into what treatment you determine to use. So things like whether you have honey supers on or you're planning to take honey, whether you're planning on feeding your bees, when you're planning or needing to winterize your bees, all those are really important factors because most of the mite treatments have limitations to how you put them on, when you can put them on, how they work, how they're effective. So I'm going to go over some of them now in order to help you with your plan. And thanks for joining me at 4D Honeybee. Okay, so it's pretty simple. What I'm going to look at here are two main forms of mite treatments, and there are many more than two forms of possible treatments. So if I had an unlimited budget and unlimited time, and if maybe I was had more hives or was gearing towards being a professional beekeeper, I would use either an atomizing spray or a vaporizing spray, and I would spray my hives with fumes. So you do that a couple of times, you blast the fume in the hive, you seal up the hive for a few minutes, and the treatment is really thorough and really good and usually 100% effective. But most beginner beekeepers are not going to be able to put out the expense, time, or have the knowledge to do that. So I'm going to go through two of the main treatments that are available to us new, beginner, and not so experienced beekeepers. Okay, so the two types of treatments that I'm going to look at are Apivar versus MAQs, Mite Away Quick Strip. So I'll refer to those as MAQs from here on in. And the truth is that there are a lot of choices out there. There are a lot of treatments that you can do, and most of these principles relate. So there'll be a number of factors that I look at in this examination, one versus the other, and you can apply those to any treatment that you decide to use and see if it works best for you. So let's start off with Apivar. So Apivar kind of looks like this. It comes in a vacuum sealed pouch, and it is a bunch of synthetic plastic strips. So I'm just going to show you what they look like here. So it's a plastic strip that looks like this, and you see you break this this dotted line in the middle, and you apply them in the hive one of two ways. Either you pull out this little triangular tab and you drop it in between frames and the tab holds it there, or the preferred method is to just stick a toothpick through this hole here. You see the hole there? So you stick a toothpick through that hole and then it hangs down the frames. The reason why I prefer the toothpick method is that when you use this triangular method, it sticks up way high above the frame. And then when you put down your lid, you apply a force, and you see you kind of bend it over and it pushes against the frame. So it hangs really nicely when you hang it with a toothpick down like this below the frames. So this is a contact type of treatment. So in other words, there's a chemical lining all of these sheets of plastic, and the main active chemical is amitraz. So that chemical is a chemical that comes in contact with the bees. They walk on it, they brush along it, they rub their bodies on it, and then they spread it to the rest of the bees in the hive. So that chemical is a chemical that essentially paralyzes the mites, makes them fall off the bees. They fall down below the bottom board, and that's what causes them to die. Treatment time on this is 6 weeks, and that's a long time. So, and it kind of makes sense because it's going to take that long for the bees to transmit it all over the hive, right? So if you have that amount of time, you know, Apivar is incredibly effective. They boast a 99% kill rate, and my experience agrees with that. So it's very effective at killing bees. Those strips, though, are recyclable that I know of, and user friendly. So they say on all the Apivar websites to dispose of them appropriately, but they don't tell you what appropriate is for that. I mean, it's a plastic, so you should be able to just chuck it in your recycling, but you're not reusing it, you're not using it, you're not sticking it in the compost. It's not organic, right? Apivar cannot be used with honey supers, right? So if you read this here, it says really clearly here that in big bold letters, do not use Apivar strips when honey supers are present. Okay, so that's something that you have to put into your planning, because it's 6 weeks, right? So, you know, are you going to put it in the spring? If you put it on in the spring, then you've got to know that you're not going to put your honey supers on until at least 6 weeks later, right? Because obviously this provides the chemical is not, you know, friendly to be ingested by humans, and that's why you can't do it when you're putting on honey. You also can't put this on when you're feeding, right? So you have to plan that out as well, because if you're planning on feeding in the fall, or you need to feed in the fall or spring, there's a 6-week period where once you put this on, you cannot change it. The other thing that's kind of inconvenient about these is you're supposed to place them where the brood concentration is and where the bee concentration is. And what they suggest you do is you check every once in a while and move them around the hive in case the bees are moving away from it. So that's really inconvenient, and I can't see wanting to do that. If you do have to do that, that's something that you don't have to do with a lot of other treatments. So again, this is a synthetic. Good thing about this is there's no temperature restrictions. You can put this on at any time, and it doesn't matter. So that's a big plus about this. The other plus about Apivar is that there is no known resistance that's been created or that's been built up by bees to amitraz. So that's a really good thing. So then the other one that we look at is Mite Away Quick Strips. So this is what your Mite Away Quick Strips look like. They're kind of a gel, kind of a waxy packaging that looks like you know, pollen patties that you would put in your hive. They're also very pungent as far as fumes, so try not to get your face too close to them, or you'll get a mouthful of fumes that will bug you. They come in packages of 2, so this is 1 treatment. You use 2 strips per treatment generally. You also have the option though of using a half treatment. So I'm considering a half treatment this year because my hive is not all that strong, and there is a chance for bee mortality and queen mortality when you use this. So that's something you have to really consider. So this is a fume type of my dog's chasing squirrels. This is a fume type of, here, I'll show you. You never gets them. Where's the chippies, Tower? Where's the chippies? Where are the chippies at? So this is a fume type of evaporating treatment. And it's a formic acid, which is found and created normally. It's organic, which means that you can have this on when you have your honey supers on. And when you need to get rid of it, you can just compost it, right? So this is what the strip looks like once you pull it out. One thing you have to do is when you open this, make sure you open the package completely, because if you don't, you try to kind of pull this out, and this is very, very delicate. It rips really easily. It's very soft, kind of waxy gel type paper on it. And MAQs has a really good YouTube video on how to install these and how to use them. So formic acid, this is compostable. This full treatment is 7 days. So if you use a full treatment with 2 of these pads on, it's only 7 days in and out. But then they say you can just leave the pads on indefinitely, and they do just evaporate into nothing. I have done that. So really the 7 days is just a minimum. You can just put them on, walk away and forget about them, and have no negative effects. This can be used when you have honey supers on. This formic acid is designed in a way, and I don't know how or why this works, but it penetrates brood caps. So it goes into the brood, you know, in its larva stage and its pupa stage, and it kills the the mites right there, right then and there, which is a really good bonus. But this doesn't get into the honey, so you can take your honey off there. Downside, or something you really have to be cautious about this, is that you have to use it within a certain temperature range, and it's generally 10 degrees Celsius up to 29.5 degrees Celsius, or 50 Fahrenheit to 85 Fahrenheit. So you've got to really watch the times that you can use this. You can't throw this on at the last second in the fall when your temperatures are too cold, or in the spring when the temperatures haven't gotten warm enough. If the temperature gets too hot, too much of these fumes get evaporated into the hive, and that's where you get a lot of bee mortality and possibly queen mortality. So you got to really watch that. There's no such risks with Apivar. So those are the two pluses and minuses of two very different products that are very common. So this year, what's going to work for me is to use the MITES quick strips. And the reason why I'm using them is that I just looked at all my timing and all those factors. Now, I will put all the factors that I mentioned, I'll put in a little chart graphic at the end of this video, so you can take a little screenshot of it if you want. And yeah, so I'm going to use the MITES quick strips because I looked at the, first of all, I have a weak hive, right? And I want to let that hive get a foothold before I install the mite treatment. So I just installed the queen last week, and I want to give her one whole brood cycle. So that's 21 days, right? 21 days from late August gets me into middle September. If I were to then put on the Apivar strips, which are 6 full weeks, that takes me beyond the point at which I need to winterize my hives, right? But in mid-September, I'm still within the temperature range for MITES quick strips. So those are the things I'm looking at. When you go to do this, when you go to do your mite treatment, it would be ideal if you could clean your bottom board. If you have a removable bottom board, install it. Make sure it's pristinely clean. Install it. With either one of these treatments, you'll have mite drop right away. By the next day, you'll come and you'll see hundreds of dead mites on that board. And the next couple of days, you'll see thousands of them, right? Apivar is incredibly effective. I'm not dissing that product or anything. It's it does have some side effects that you can read up on, but it's worked well for me. But it's the same with the MITES quick strips. Get your bottom board cleaned, install the bottom board, do the treatment, and then look at the bottom board. You don't have to go into your hive, just look at the bottom board to see how many mites fall off, and you won't even be able to count them. That's how many there will be. So my experience is this. I've overwintered now about 13 hives in my 5 years of amateur beekeeping. Of those 13 hives, 2 hives I decided not to treat. And I decided not to treat because I actually measured the amount of mites in them. I did a count, and I came way below the threshold of what's treatable, so well under 1%. So I decided not to treat those hives, to have essentially, what do you call it when you have a standard base to, in your experiment, right? Can't remember that word. Somebody figure out what that word is? I'm sure I'll look it up and write it down here somewhere. Control, that's it. So I thought, let's not treat these hives and because the count is so low or non-existent, and see what happens. Both of those hives died. So I've got a 100% mortality going when I haven't treated for Varroa. And I've got a much better percentage of overwintering success when I have treated. So you have to do it. Don't wait until October, November. And this is for northern climates where you've got a winter to deal with, where all things come to screeching halt as far as bee production, and you got to kind of just button them up and leave them alone. For those climates, you've got to plan it out right now. In August, you got to know what plan you're going to use, what product you're going to use, really be familiar with the restrictions on it and how to work it, how to use it properly, and install it on the day you plan to install it. Do that, you'll knock down your mites. Plan the exact same thing in the spring to, again, knock them down. Whatever survived as far as mites go will really start to propagate in the spring when the brood starts rearing, because that's what they do. They attach themselves to brood. And anyway, you give yourself a much better chance of having really good bee numbers if you do that in the fall and spring. So that's my advice. Hopefully it helps you. If you have any questions, let me know. And thanks for joining me. Let's get those Varroa with 40 honeybee.